Welcome back, everyone, and how are we doing today? So, bit of a special kind of video, if you will. There is going to be an updated deck list. Link is down below, and I'm just going to be honest with you guys. It's not the exact list I am personally testing and running, but it's pretty darn similar, and I stand by the card and choices in it, and it's going to kind of dictate a little bit based on your local metas as well, which we're going to cover all of that today. And you already know the title, you saw it on Facebook or you saw it pop up. However, and with Fabled releasing first set of rotations and all these new players coming into the game, I thought it was a great time to go back and touch in on deck building. So this is kind of like a deck building 101, but it's more of a competitive deck building video. And when I say that, if you're playing with friends, if you're playing casually, just playing at locals, I still think it's a good video, but you can kind of disregard some of this. You don't have to think as far in depth. You can play more of like your fun cards, more of your movie theme type cards, stuff like that. Before we get into it, though, I did put this little survey up last week while I was out of town, just curious on, the viewer base, trying to kind of get to know you guys a little bit as well. So I put it out there, just some fun questions, and we're going to go over it real briefly. So 43 people responded to it. Thank you, everyone who did that. It's actually more than I was expecting. The first one was, how competitive do you play? Whether it's casual, local, online only, travel for prizes. And we saw 28 out of the 43 saying locally competitive. Okay, so not just casual fans. The majority of players play locally and play to compete, and they just don't travel for prizing. However, eight of them, so almost 20%, said, yeah, I go and travel for prizes, usually being set championships, from time to time DLCs, stuff like that. And then we had casual, so 7 right there with the casual. So it's kind of a nice little split up, and not too surprising. The traveling a little more than casual, and then the majority of players falling that locally competitive. Again, pretty expected, I guess. There's no right or wrong to any of these either. It's more or less, like I said, I just wanted to get to know the community a little bit better. I want to try and think of a funner way to do this, whether it's rulings or just, I don't know, something else, and do this periodically. So the second one was, I was just curious, what was your highest accomplishment? And this ranged anywhere from playing for fun to, I've won a golden Mickey. And we didn't have any won a golden Mickey people watch the video, unfortunately, but not super surprising neither. So 27% saying highest accomplishments playing for fun, and that is perfectly fine, especially when we see that, 16%, so 7, and then, wow, can't even talk. 7 players, 16%, said that they just play casually, and 27%, 12 players, saying that's their highest accomplishment. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. 2 players, the highest accomplishment being 1 locals, and this is, again, that locally competitive, and everyone has to start somewhere. Again, no right or wrong or cutting down on anyone. It's just curiosity, I guess, but curiosity did kill the cat. Topping set championship, we got 27, almost 28% there. And then a good majority of it, so 35%, saying the highest they got was 1 set championships. And this is the category that personally I fall into as well. We did have 1 player who topped a DLC or like a 5K style event. So shout outs, congrats. And there was an option to add in your accomplishment. One had top 2 at a 36 player event, so roughly a 1K, somewhere in that regard. So again, congratulations to everyone on that. This part, it was an open forum question, and it was, what is your favorite card? And Bell Inventive Engineer and Bell Strange but Special actually got a lot of them. Actually, lots of just Bell's Accomplished Mystic. There was a lot of, where is it? Maybe it's the Enchanted one. Lots of one-ofs, but if people type it any different, it does cue it as a different answer. Aurora Waking Beauty, because this next one was, what was your favorite enchanted? Aurora Waking Beauty, all is found. That's a good one. Had it, because here we see another one, so we got 3 there. Bell Accomplished Mystic, the Mechanic, Bell Fabled, which is Accomplished Mystic, Bell Accomplished Mystic, so Bell from Fabled having 3 or more, Blue Mufasa, Circle of Life also having 3. So I think those are the 3 that had 3 when I actually broke it down and looked at was Aurora Waking Beauty, Belle Accomplished Mystic, and the Circle of Life, which personally I think all 3 of them are really fantastic enchanteds. And set 9 as a whole, I don't think there's a bad enchanted in the new set. It's absolutely crazy. What is your favorite card in Fabled? I'm going to try and just speed this up a little so we can actually get to the video because I got a lot of talking to do. It was Circle of Life. Once we, again, break it all down, it was the most popular answer. So now this is the fun one. If you could bring back one card, what would it be? And I picked one card from every color. So it was Bucky, Pre-errata, Be Prepared, Rapunzel. I wish I could have coordinated the colors on here to match it. I'll have to write this down so I can do that next time. Beast, Tragic Hero, Madam Mim Fox. Actually got 3 of them right. 4 if we count the Hiram. So Hiram, Flaversham. And one person did say Bucky, or sorry, 2 people said Bucky, Pre-errata. I saw the green right away. Only one saying Beast, Tragic Hero. The majority of people actually saying they wish B Prep came back. And with the influx of aggro, it's not that surprising that that was the answer. Madam Mim Fox being the next most, then Rapunzel and Hiram both tying at 17%. Personally, I would also say B Prep, and then probably Fox is my next answer. The rest are Tragic Hero is the most likely to not be broken. Hiram and Rapunzel are just pretty broken cards. Who's going to DLC Milwaukee? I personally am as well. So if you're there, come say hi. Find me, comment on a video. I'll try to check it throughout the day. All that good stuff. Would absolutely love to meet some of you guys and appreciate all of the support. What is going to be the best deck of this format? And 40% saying Blurple. Not too surprising. I would put myself in that 40% as well. 22% saying Purple Steel Tempo. 20% saying Amber Steel Aggro, and 8% saying Blue Green Control. I would go Blurple, Purple Steel Tempo, and Blue Green Control as my 3 locks for Tier 1. Amber Steel Aggro, I had it as Tier 1, but the more I test, I don't know if it's going to be. It's for sure going to be one of the top 5 decks, and it'll be right at the top of Tier 2 if it's not Tier 1. I'm just not 100% sold that it's going to be a Tier 1 deck. Otherwise, we had 5% saying Emerald Ruby. The more I test the deck, it just doesn't feel like that great. Blue Steel Allies is actually a pretty good deck. Amethyst Emerald Tempo as well. Ruby Amethyst was another option that people could pick. So overwhelmingly, though, Blurple kind of looking like it's going to be the deck to go for. What is the current state of Lorcana? Nobody said less than a 3. We had 1 3, 1 4, and otherwise everyone else, the other 40 answers were between 6 and 10, and there was actually 7 9s and 6 10s. We got an average score for the game of 7.83. That's actually not too bad. I would put it if I could go points, I'd probably say 8 point, high 8s. Since I can't, I would round to the nearest number, and I'd probably vote that the game's at a 9. I think it's in a pretty good spot right now. I think the game's incredibly fun. And then just lastly, are you subscribed to Inkwell Gaming? Because at 6,000 subscribers, we're giving away a box of Fabled. So if you're not already subscribed, hit that button. For real. It's literally just a free box. Unless you don't like free stuff. That's fine. You don't have to do it. So that gets us into our video now. So welcome to the video. And if you just skipped with a little timestamp, I should have said that before. Timestamps are down below. Too late now. If you're just getting into the video, though, you skipped over that little fun part. Deck building 101. How would I approach deck building with rotation, with everything going on? Because we have set championships all October. We have DLC, Milwaukee, and there is also the DLC over in Europe. So we're going to have some events. We're going to see where the meta is, where it shakes up. And that's the first thing I got to bring up. If you're going to build a deck competitively, know the meta. So again, when we talk about the meta, Tier 1, if I'm looking at it right now, is going to be Blurple, Purple Steel Tempo, Blue Green Control, and then a handful of Tier 2 decks that I'm going to consider when I'm deck building are Amber Steel Aggro, Amethyst Emerald Tempo, Blue Steel Allies, and Ruby Amethyst. I think that these are the 7 best decks. It's not the entirety of Tier 2. There's going to be other Tier 2 decks, but I think that these are the 7 best decks of the format. So knowing the meta, that is the meta, those 7 decks. And again, there's going to be more to it, but knowing the top of the meta is what you need to do when you're competitively deck building. Even if you don't choose one of them, you have to know which decks are going to be there, and maybe you're wrong, but you take an educated guess. The next thing I would say is, what's your play style? How do you like to play? Do you like to play aggressive decks? Do you like control decks? Do you like thinking? Do you like just turning cards sideways, not interacting a whole lot with your opponent? What type of deck do you like? And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. This is just, again, it's something you should ask yourself when you're going to play a deck. I initially, when I first started playing, was hyper aggro, really liked it. Slowly kind of went towards tempo decks, and now I'm a full-blown control player. I just like it. I like the thinking of it. I love everything about Blurple. The deck, it's felt so good. I actually nicknamed my Dreamborn Link is I've been playing Blurple since before Blurple was cool. That's a little anagram for it. It's going back all the way to set 4, because in set 3, Ben Gibson absolutely destroyed me with it at set championships, and I'm like, that deck was pretty cool. I want to look into that a bit more. Anyway, so knowing what's your play style, and then you have to choose a deck. So again, when we're going to tie back into tip number 1, know the meta. When we look at those decks, Blurple is a control deck, Blue-Green is a control deck, Ruby Amethyst I would put in that control category as well. But then you have decks like Purple Steel Tempo and Blue Steel Allies, where they're not necessarily control, they're kind of more mid decks. And Purple Steel can be like a aggressive mid-game style deck, and your Blue Steel Allies is going to be more of like a mid to late game control style deck, but not necessarily like full-blown late game control. So kind of seeing where that spectrum, like you have your control way over, sorry, I'm just trying to make it more visual for you guys. Control's over here, aggro's over here. So we got those 3 decks, and then you get like Blue Steel Allies, Purple Steel Tempo, and we're getting closer towards that aggro. Obviously Amber Steel aggro is going to be a quick deck, and then Amethyst Emerald Tempo also is going to lean more into an aggressive play style. So if I'm an aggressive player, I want to play aggro, I'm going to look at Amber Steel and Amethyst Emerald. Honestly, I might lean Amethyst Emerald. It might not be as fast, it might not have as high of a ceiling, but overall, I think it might be a little more consistent into everything and just have a better play style on the draw compared to Amber Steel. If I'm a more kind of mid, not full-blown control, but not real aggressive deck, I'm probably going to lean Purple Steel Tempo would be the deck I would go for. And again, in a control environment, I have a few local players who absolutely love Blue-Green. Personally, I'm a Blurple player, so I hate Blue-Green, but I think that those are the 2 big control decks that I would lean towards playing for one of them. And again, we're going to use Blurple as an example for this video because it's the deck I'm going to be able to just kind of talk about things just the easiest for you guys. And because I play a bunch of decks, I try a lot of things, but Blurple's the tried and true deck that I really stick with for the long part. So that gets us to step 3. We know the meta. We know our play style. So step number 3 is choosing a deck. What deck are we going to go with? We're going to go with Blurple for today's video. If you want to go with a different one, obviously that's perfectly fine. So now we know our meta. We know the play styles. We know our deck. Number 4, we're going to go learn your matchups. So how do you do this? You can watch videos, do some research, go to locals, see what happens, and see how things go. Just playing other decks and seeing which matchups kind of play out. So like looking at those 7 decks as for Blurple, again, everything we do now is going to be assume you're playing Blurple because that's the point of the video. Good matchups, I think Purple Steel Tempo, Amber Steel Aggro, Amethyst Emerald Tempo, and Blue Steel Allies. I think all 4 of these are pretty good matchups for Blurple. Ruby Amethyst is kind of like a neutral matchup, could go either way. And then Blue-Green, in my opinion, is the only bad matchup for Blurple right now. So now we know our matchups. That's why would you need to know your matchups? When you're building, there's going to be a certain deck core, which we're going to get to. And then there's going to be a ton of tech cards, and you're going to use those tech cards to try to shore up the deck against your bad matchups. You're going to try and use those tech spots to fill in weaknesses of the deck, whether it's removal, consistency, utility for whatever reason. Using those tech spots to, again, fill in the weaknesses, fill in the blanks, fill in the gaps for ideally your bad matchups. Because if your good matchup's already good, you don't need to make your good ones better unless it's, the top of the meta. But blue-green being a bad matchup as a tier 1 deck, I think it needs a little bit of attention. So we're going to go ahead then. We know our matchups now. We know what's favorable. We know what's unfavorable. We're going to look into those decks a bit. So look up deck ideas. Yeah, net deck. That's what I'm telling you to do. Go net deck. So many times I've seen it in Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, all these other games. Back in the day, we didn't net deck. Back in the day, creativity. Back in the day, we didn't have the internet and all this information as readily available as we do today. Otherwise, yeah, people would have net decked back then too. So don't give me any of that BS. Don't say, oh, you can't net deck. We didn't do that. No, we didn't have the ability to do it nearly as thoroughly as we do now. Otherwise, all the top players would have been doing it. Period. You're not going to convince me otherwise. So yes, net deck. I'm not saying go take DKP's exact list, bring it to locals, and then complain that you're not having DKP results because you're not DKP. You don't have his thought process. You don't know the exact reasoning and his play lines behind every single card the way he does. But if you want to take that list, play test it, learn it for yourself, see what works, what doesn't, absolutely, and then make some changes to it. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. The net decking narrative needs to just go away at this point. Personally, that's my thoughts on it. Other things, other decks, what do they do? A huge thing that I love about being a content creator is all the deck profiles I bring you guys, I sit down and I think it through. I go through tons of cards, working out matchups. Where would I play this? What would this do? How would I counter this? These decks play this, so what would I do in this deck for that? And then I try to play test the decks a handful as well. And I'm not saying I'm an expert on every deck, but when you play these other decks and when you see these other decks being played, you learn weaknesses, key spots, cards that when I played this deck, it really hurt when someone removed this card of mine. You learn, again, weak spots, key points of interaction. And then also as you're playing, you maybe say, when I played this card, I won. So now you know that's a key card and you can go after it that way. One of the best things you can do, and again, we're going to talk as a Blurple player, one of the best things you can do, go play blue-green a lot. Learn the deck inside and out. When you play against Blurple, say, okay, this worked really good to shut them down. Now look out for that as the Blurple player. If you say, oh, they did this and it just absolutely walked me, remember that, because as a Blurple player, maybe you want to try and do that now. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I'll explain it in comments down below if you want to ask for further explanations, anything like that. Dreamborn, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, anywhere you can get information on these other decks, I'm perfectly fine with. There's no hold barred. Inkdex, once tournament results start getting posted, is a great resource too. And once the format kind of starts going, I'll get the spreadsheet rolling with topping results and things like that too. So there's lots of resources out there, guys, and use them. That's really the best thing I can say is use them. And like I said, learning other decks, playing other decks is going to be your best way to truly learn and get behind them. And you don't have to be experts. Once again, just understand the gist of it. You don't have to be an expert, just get the gist of it. Bringing us to, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bringing us to number 6. What is the deck core? So for Blurple, this is kind of a deck core I put together. And deck core is kind of like the minimum you're going to see in a deck. This is the minimum ratios of these cards, and there's a couple in here, the 2 Annas and the 2 Big Elsas. Everything else is probably going to be a 90% of Blurple lists, and even those are going to be in the majority too. And that doesn't mean don't play 4 Finders. It doesn't mean don't play 3 or 4 Monster. It doesn't mean don't play 4 Into the Unknown. It just means these are kind of the minimums that you should play. So if we're going to play Blurple, you should just start out automatically by putting these 37 cards into your deck, and then you got 23 flex spots. So I think everything here is pretty self-explanatory, but we're just going to kind of talk about it. Okay. Sorry. I should have grabbed a water. Getting winded and doing all that stuff in the beginning of the video. But we're getting closer. So in your 1-drop spot, again, this isn't saying play 4 1-drops. This is just saying if you're playing Blurple, play Royal Guard. You draw so many cards, this card gets insane value. Getting this card down, and then the next turn, you draw for turn, that's +1. You play Finders Keepers, now you're up to +4. Against a 9 inks, not that hard to do in this deck. Genie, you could potentially swing for like 3 to 6. I think 6 was the most attack I've ever had my Royal Guard get up to in a single turn in Blurple. And if you can have a 1-drop swinging for 4 to 6 pretty regularly, I'd say regularly you can get to 4 decently well. And that's actually +4, so it does 5. Like draw for turn and Finders Keepers, you're swinging for 5 damage. Like that is really, really strong value in a 1-drop. And it's one of the few cases. Usually, I don't like to play Finders on turn 4 when I have the moment I have 5 ink. I don't like to just slap Finders down and be like, oh yeah, draw 3 cards, pass turn. But if I can play Finders, draw 3 cards, swing my 1-drop into a Rhino, yeah, I'm going to do that. I am perfectly fine with that. No issues whatsoever. Yeah, that's a good turn for me. If I can clear a Rhino with a 1-drop and draw 3 cards, absolutely, that's a great turn. Turn 2, Sail Tipo. I personally don't think there's any other 2-drops worth it in Blurple. There's one that we're going to talk about in the tech spots that's very popular, and I'm going to give you my reasoning not to play it. But Tipo and Sail. On 2, you want to ramp. 90% of the time, if I don't have Tipo or Sail, I'm mulliganing at least 6 cards. Once in a while, I'll keep a 1-drop, especially if it's, say, Develop Your Brain. Sometimes, though, I don't even do that. If you just feel like, I don't think I'm going to hit it, you got to go for it. And then you get into, like, different matchups, depending on your hand. Like, do I have Yelena, Rafiki? Do I have Basil on 1? Things like that, where is it going to matter if I go Tipo or Sail? Which one do I want to prioritize? Am I going against an aggressive deck where I want the body on board? Or am I going against a slower deck where I want the extra card draw from Sail? So things like that are going to dictate which one you go for, but they're both inkable, so that does really help you as well. Or do I have a bunch of uninkables in my hand, because Tipo helps you get rid of those and make use of them, whereas Sail, they're just kind of sit in your hand, and if you don't have the right inkables, you're not going to be able to ramp up very hard anyway. We kind of skip the 3-drops and go right into our 4s. Genie's, in my opinion, the only lock in the 4-drop spot. There's a lot of text that you can go here, from Dumbo to Yzma to Scrooge to Kida. There's so many that we're going to talk about here in a second. But Genie's really the only true lock to play in that 4-drop spot. Belle, personally, I'd play 4. Absolutely. Card is insane. But I've seen people already playing 2. Last format, handful of people played 2. I disagree with it. I would 100% play 4. But this is the deck core. It's the minimums. So we're going to put 2 up there as our little example. 4 Elsa. She exerts a card. She's rushed. She's evasive. It just works out really, really well. Anna, giving that support is pretty crazy. And if you get Anna down on 6, your opponent answers with a half shark. Then your turn, you play Elsa, exert their half shark, quest your Anna, get 2 lore, draw a card because you have Elsa, give support to your Elsa, who just exerted their half shark. Now you have 5 strength for your Elsa. Elsa can take out the half shark, and you got to draw a card and get 2 lore in the process. They just pair up so nicely with each other, especially if we're playing big Elsas too. Anna just works really good for a fantastic late game card. 2 quester, 6 willpower, 3 strength, gives support and a potential for a draw. I think Anna is an incredible card. Hades and Big Elsa, these are your closers. They're really, really strong. Monstro. Man, this is a card that the ratio, I've been so torn on. It's when I played 2, I would see them both all the time, and I inked them both, and I'd get like, man, I could use a Monstro. So I ended up going to 3. Being at 3, I don't know how great it is right now. Sometimes it absolutely shines, and there's a neat little play, especially when you get like 10, 12 ink. If you have Monstro on board, and you get Dumbo down, and Peter Pan's Shadow, actually, you don't even need Peter Pan's Shadow, right? It's just the Dumbo. You know, you need the Peter Pan Shadow to give your evasive to your Monstro, or like the little black feather. And then you have evasive, so you can just use the Dumbo, giving him the ability to exert, draw a card, gain a lore, discard a card, ready them, exert, draw a card, gain a lore, and you just loop them until you're out of ink. I had an opponent in testing get 10. They got 10 lore and drew 10 cards. Obviously, they discarded 10 cards too, but they got 10 lore on me just from looping their Monstros when they had Peter Pan, Shadow, and Dumbo on board. It's actually really cool to see. It's a play that I've thought about, and I'm like, oh, can you just loop this and like create a 20-turn FTK? And I'm like, wait, no, you got to pay an ink every single time. So you can get a lot of lore in a turn though. Not something I personally invested time into, other than like this thought I had. I'm like, holy cow, it's a loop, it's an FTK. And then I'm like, wait, no, it's not. I'm not gonna put more time into that. But Monstro just being a really good closer when you're needing to challenge things. We already mentioned Sail. Into the Unknown. I don't like this card on Rhino. You have other answers for Rhino, whether it's Royal Guard, whether it's Bell, whether it's something else, whether it's Basil gives support to something. Like, there's lots of answers for it. I just don't like Into the Unknown on a shifted character and giving your opponent 2 free ink. There's going to be times where you have to do it, but it feels really bad. But Tiana can be a menace, and if they open, I've seen people like, yeah, but they have Tiana, and then they come back with Pluto. Now what? Yeah, you got me there. Sometimes they just open it. You're right. But say you have Into the Unknown, and say like Rafiki, you can sing Into the Unknown, get rid of their Tiana, play the Rafiki, slam that into a Pluto, crash it. Now their Pluto's gone. Now their Tiana's gone. Or you slam into like a Rhino or a Daisy would be ideal. But Into the Unknown on Tiana is just a really, really clean answer, and it's inkable. Otherwise, using it in mirror matches against, Iago's a big one. Elsa's, Dumbo's. There's so many good cards in the mirror match to hit with Into the Unknown, and they're going to be ramping so hard anyway. Like, I've had mirror matches where I end up with 20 ink because I got hit by this card in Hades so much, and between my inking and it's like I stopped inking at 8, and all of a sudden it's just like, just from my opponent I still get up to like 13 ink. It's actually kind of neat. Finders Keepers then. This card ramps so hard, you get so much ink, like I just talked about, that playing like Finders Keepers and Hades in the same turn really is not unheard of whatsoever. Like, you can get to 12 ink pretty easily, play Finders Keepers, draw 3 cards, hit like a Hades and Elsa, a Monstro, and just go crazy on your opponent. Dropping Monstro and Finders Keepers in the same turn just feels kind of broken too, because then you get to slam into 4 different things. Again, yeah, feels pretty good. So we're going to go ahead then and move into some tech options. What are some tech cards we could play? In the 1-drops, you have Rafiki as another challenger. I think the Royal Guard is just better. Diablo, especially if you give it challenger, it can get some nice little value there. Cogsworth giving something rush. Otherwise, Basil giving support. Personally, I'm on Basil. I think that it's the best 1-drop outside of the Royal Guard as far as characters go. So I'm on Basil and Royal Guard personally. That's, again, the list we're going to show at the end isn't my exact list, but I'm going to kind of talk about it as well at the same time. I just want to give you guys a generic list that is a great starting point, and again, you got to kind of cater it to your meta, because what I expect to play against might not be what you go against. If you go against a bunch of aggressive decks and I'm going against a bunch of blue-green decks, our builds should not look the same. We need to build for the meta we go to play for, and that's where knowing the meta kind of comes into play. 2-drop cards. I guess I'm going to skip down to the bottom a little bit more just to stay with the ink costs. Develop Your Brain, another great 1-drop card. 2 drops, going back up to, we don't have any characters there. So Hypnotic Strength. This card is very popular online in a lot of Amethyst decks, and it's because the format's very aggressive. You get to draw a card, you get to get Challenger +2, you can out in Iago. There's a lot of good use for the card, and I don't know if I've lost a single game where my opponent uses this card, and I've tried it, and I'm like, it's the Challenger 2, it's weird to say that it feels slow, but it feels slow. I don't like the card. I don't. I guess I can't really go on this huge rant in depth saying the card's terrible, 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 because so many people are playing it and like it. I think the card feels slow. I don't think that it helps. I think that it's win more. And again, when people play it against me, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I don't think I'm like, you took out that character of mine. I still feel like I'm in control. You didn't develop your board anymore. You're just down a couple ink, and I lost a character. I was going to lose next turn anyway, so I'm just going to keep developing my board and stay ahead of you that way. Into Vision of the Future, just consistency card in that 2-drop spot if you're looking for something. 3 drops. The Madam Mim, where you can pay your ink, you can exert her. So you can pay 2 ink, not exert her, pay 2 ink, choose and discard a card, and you get a lore. This can come out very nice later game when you have, a handful of cards in your hand, and you have, say, 10 ink or so. You have her on board from last turn. You just 2 ink, discard, play lore, or she only costs 3. So let's say you have 10 ink. You play her, you have 7 ink, whether you inked for turn or not. Let's just stay at 7. You pay 2 ink, you discard a card. You pay 2 ink, you discard a card. You pay 2 ink, you discard a card. If you have 3 cards in hand, you have the 6 ink. You can just go ahead and gain 3 lore like that without even having to quest. It's like a gold on steroids, but it's uninkable. And I don't think there's room for her being uninkable, personally. I don't. The deck is on more uninkables now this format than we were last format. And I don't want to go up anymore. And she's not going to fit it for me. But she is seeing some play towards the end of last format, and it's a card that might still see some play. So I do want to throw it out there as a potential option. Yelena for the Challenger status. She's like a bad crab that quests for more. I tested her initially. She was in my very first iterations of the deck, and I'm just saying, she didn't feel that great. Better than Hypnotic Strength. I would play Yelena before Hypnotic Strength again. But she just felt not great. So would I play her? No, I don't think I would. Remember how I said the 4-drop spot was super crowded? These last 2 in the first row and then almost the entire second row are all 4-drop cards. So naturally, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. Everyone has a weakness. Move a bunch of damage, draw cards for each damage. I like this card. I really like this card. I like moving damage. I like taking out characters. I like drawing cards. Unfortunately, did I keep it? No. If I'm going to play this card, I'm going to play 3 finders, 1 weakness. That would be the ratios I go. I'm on 4 finders keepers right now. If I were to play this card, I'd take out 1 finders, put this card in at 1, and I would go with it that way. I don't think it needs to be played at a whole bunch more, 2 at the absolute most. But overall, I do think it's a very, very good, very strong card. Going back up to the top now, Dumbo, Iago. I think these 2 go hand in hand. If you're not playing Dumbo, I probably wouldn't play Iago. Iago is a huge threat. It's a 4/6 body. That is a huge threat. Don't get me wrong. But having Vanish hurts. And there's so many cards from Hypnotic Strength to Improvise to things like that can out this card. However, fantastic card. Big board presence. Threatening. Controls the board. Very good card. But with Dumbo, you get that extra ability of it's evasive, so you can just pay an ink, tap it down, draw a card, get a lore. I think they kind of go hand in hand. If I'm playing Dumbo, I'm going to play Iago. Whether I'm playing 3 or 4 Dumbos, I don't know yet. How many Iagos do I play? 2, maybe 3, somewhere in there. I don't think you need 4, though. Madam Mim Elephant. I am great versus aggro. Moving the damage. You can move damage to Rhino. Okay, now it doesn't get the resist. Moving damage to take out other characters. Again, pretty good. Bouncing slows your tempo. So it's kind of contradictory, right? The moving damage is great versus these aggressive decks. I don't think it's that strong into control, but bouncing your Hades, bouncing your Elsa, bouncing your Belle, them are all great options. But it's, again, contradictory because it moves damage, which is good versus aggro, but it's a turn 4, which means you need turn 5. Well, we ramp, so we'll say turn 3 you play it, turn 4 you challenge, turn 5 you move damage. Turn 5 you move damage. And you have to bounce a character in the process, so you lose tempo that way. Given the character you're bouncing is a 1-drop or a Tipo, ideally Tipo, makes it less bad, less of a tempo loss. But I don't know. I'm so torn on Elephant. I tried it out. I didn't like it, so I took Elephant out. Peter Pan's Shadow, we mentioned this card's pretty important for the Monstro lore loop, but in addition to that, just giving Monstro evasive so you can have this card down, slap a Monstro down, or put Monstro down. Next turn, they quest a bunch. Next turn, you slap this down. You're like, nice Genie, nice Dumbo, nice Elsa, nice Iago. And you just run through it all with your Monstro. I think it's a fantastic play. Absolutely love it. It's just unequal count. The unequal count is something you got to watch in this deck now. I don't like going more than like 11 to 13 at the absolute most. I really, really don't. Even with Tipo, I still don't like to do it because the ink curve of this deck is so high, and so many of the uninkables are such high cost cards. Rafiki in the 4-drop spot. I think this card is fantastic. Coming down as a 5/4 because it has the challenger +4 the turn it's played, and then questing for 2. Does it usually get there? The way I play it, no. When I was testing this card, I'd often hold it in hands for Rhino, for Daisies, just for scenarios where they're open and I have 7 ink, I can slap this down, pay the 3 to not lose strength when I challenge into a Tiana. I can slap this down, take out a Pluto. I use it for the rush aspect. And if he sticks around, he threatens being a 2-quester, so a lot of the time they have to slam other cards into it just to remove them. Usually it's not that hard once he loses that challenger +4. And only has the 1 strength that they're going to take, but he's still a very strong card, and I think that he's pretty good. Maybe he ends up into my DLC list. Card draw is really not a huge problem for the deck, so I don't know if Yzma finds her way in here like she does in Purple Steel, but she's an option. She's a 2-quester. She either quests for 2 or can draw you cards, so something like that's never going to be a bad card to consider. Ben. Support is the new crab. Support is very good. Getting Ben down on 3 so that on turn 4 you quest your Ben. You give Tipo your +4 strength. Now Tipo swings for 5. That is crazy trade value. This Ben is also where Diablo or Cusco could really shine. Giving them that much more strength is something that would be very good there. Kita's an incredible ramp card, being able to look at 2 cards, be like, okay, this one can go into my inkwell. Now I know that one's at the top of my deck. Now I'm going to play a Genie. I'm going to draw that card. I have it. She's pretty good. She's great at filtering out bad cards too. You know, okay, I play her ability, look at 2 cards. Oh, look at that. I have Iago and Tipo. I don't want a Tipo right now, so I'm going to put Tipo on my ink. Is Iago the best? No, but it's a hell of a lot better than a Tipo right now, so I'm going to go ahead and get that with my next card draw. Another one, a 5/5 2-quester, Scrooge. Pretty good. Pretty good. Pan Shadow, Rafiki, Scrooge. Probably playing one of these 3 in all of my lists in that 4-drop spot, and I'm going to play it at probably 3 of. Which one I'm playing, that's for you guys to figure out. I'm alternating it actually pretty frequently. I think all 3 of them are fantastic options in that 4-drop spot. Ursula, new Ursula. I was big on this card. I like this card. Late game, exerting a character, your opponent gets a 16, and all of a sudden you're just trying to claw back in because we could put up a lot of lore presence early and win in 2-3 turns easy. But when they're at 16, 17, 18, you have to answer every card they play. You can't miss a character. So Elsa, Belle, Hades, potentially Ursula. That gives you 5 different potential outs to answer a readied character. That's why she can be so good. Singing into the unknown, or singing a song is less, it's just an added benefit. You don't play her because your song counts high. You play her because she exerts a character, period. That's it. Kind of like Kita, Donald Duck is a great ramp card. And not only that, he's a 3/4 2-quester and inkable. So late game, you don't need the ramp, but hey, I top deck this card. It's a 2-quester. That's what I like to draw in my late games. Scar, this character pairs up with Pan Shadow also very well, being a 4/4 3 challenger, questing for 2. It is uninkable, and in that 6-drop spot, we have so many high cost uninkables already. But being a rush character that swings for 7, he can be really strong, and even stronger with that Pan Shadow. If I'm going to play him, I'm probably playing 2 of them, 3 Pan Shadow. So that's 5 uninkables there. In addition to probably 4 Genie, you're at 9. Then say 4 Hades, you're at 13, which means if you're playing Elsa, well, you're going to be pushing like 15 uninkable cards. I don't know how I feel about that, unfortunately. TikTok, a 4/7 evasive character. That's pretty much the gist of it. It's like Iago without the Vanish. Costs 2 more to play it, 1 more willpower, no Vanish. I had it played against me a handful of times, and actually it's a pain in the, what to deal with. It's a pain to get around. I'm like, okay, I can respect that. Am I going to play it? 6 cost? Probably not. But I can respect it. Some 8 cost cards. We got Mufasa. Mufasa and Ratigan. I played Ratigan a lot. I tried to make Ratigan work. Man. Forcing me to ink cards that I didn't want to ink. Because I like getting to that spot where you're like 8 to 12 ink. And just like every card in your hand is so good. And every card in your hand is a nice answer. Having him on board. And now I have to ink my answer. Okay, they played that. Now I wish I had that card back in my hand. That's why I took Ratigan out. Mufasa, every format, I'm like, is this the time for Mufasa? I don't know if it is. I think it pairs up with Kita really, really well. If you're playing Kita, maybe you put in a Mufasa or 2. This very strong card, very great stats. Questing for that for 4 as well is really strong. Rafiki. There's multiple Rafiki options for playing. Do you want to play Rafiki? Every time you ink a card, draw a card. Sounds like a pretty good deal in a ramping deck. Again, 6/6, but it's uninkable. Questing for 4. You can shift, though, too. What is he, a 9 cost, shift 6? Sorry, shift 7? I don't know. I'd love to say, yeah, this card's amazing, but I think the top end is just so set already with Hades, Elsa, and Monstro being the best that it's hard to put in more. You're probably already playing, 6 to 8 or more, 6 to 10 probably of those 3 cards total. And it's hard to say you should be playing more than that in your 60 card deck of just 8+ cost characters, especially when these ones coming in as uninkables. It's hard for me to fathom putting more in. So when we look at, just kind of recapping, I'm going to show the deck core. So, because we're going to talk about the building a deck. We talked about the deck core now, common cards, your niche cards, your utility cards. What does the deck need? You want to fill gaps, win more. That's where your tech cards come in, right? Is it niche or is it utility? Are you filling a gap or are you winning more? Win more means you're probably in a scenario where you're already going to win, but the card just helps you win better, if that's even a thing. And ideally, people try to stay away from cards like that. You want to fill gaps before you're winning more. Win more, that Mufasa to me kind of falls into that win more category, as does Rafiki, as does Ratigan. So I'd rather fill gaps with things like Pan Shadow, with middle Rafiki, the 4 cost card, with everyone has a weakness, things like that. We already talked about like looking up decks, net decking, all that kind of stuff. Your local meta, though, I briefly mentioned that. What is your local meta? Because just because the big meta is, Blurple, purple steel, blue green, your local meta might be full of aggro. It might be full of tempo. It might be full of ruby amethyst because people just love that deck so much. What is your local meta like? Once you know the total meta, what is your local meta like? Because when I go to locals, my list is never what I show you guys. Why? I mean, I'll show you guys after if I do well. But why isn't it what I talk about throughout the format? Because you're not going to my locals usually. Phil, Dan, Andy, you guys, everyone else. But you're not coming to my locals, so building for my opponents isn't going to necessarily help you. I want to show you guys all these tech options, talk about where they're good, what cards work with which cards, and then that's kind of up to you to know what you're going against, how those decks work, and build your deck for those events. That's why I'm not going to talk mulligans in this video whatsoever, because mulligans is going to completely depend on your tech cards, because your tech cards are there for those matchups. I can't give you advice on that without knowing what your local metas really are, and I wish I could. I really do wish I could just give a blanket info across the board for everyone, but this is not Amber Steel aggro. This is Blurple. We're playing a good deck, guys. Sorry, Steel players. Sorry. So building for your event, that's a huge thing that I always try and tell people when I talk to them. Like, they're like, oh, how's this deck look? First thing I always say is, well, what do you plan on playing against? I can't tell you how your deck looks without knowing what you plan to play against. And if you're like, oh, well, I don't really know. And I'm like, okay, well, then let's go in a generic vacuum and I'll try and give you that advice. Or you say, I'm going against these decks. I'm like, okay, well, then this card, this, and this don't make sense. But you maybe don't want to cut all of them because if you're wrong. And just it kind of goes from there. So building our deck. We got the deck core. We kind of mentioned that already. We got the deck core. All these cards are going to be in the list we show you in a second. Then using the tech cards to fill in our ink curve. So we want 1-drops. I like to hit a 1-drop. I want to play 8 to 10 right now in the current format. So that means we're going to need 6 more 1-drops. Or at least 4. 4 to 6 more 1-drops. Turn 2, ramp is all I care about. I don't need to add any ramp cards in here. Which then turn 3 is our 4-cost cards. We're going to have to add a few. We got 23 spots. Our top end is pretty much built. Like I already said, Hades, Elsa, Monstro, that's your top end. There's really no need to add a bunch of that other fluff into the deck. So we need some 1-drops, and we need the middle of the deck. We need that turn 3 through 5, so 4, 5, 6 ink cards. That's where we want to really focus on building things up for our ink curve of the deck. Ideal play lines, like I said, body on 1, ramp on 2, and then if you're on the play, do you go for like a Genie or Dumbo, or put an Iago down so that turn 4 you can play Dumbo and use the ability with your Genie right away, or your Iago right away? Or are you on the draw? Do you want Scrooge, Rafiki, whatever one you're playing? So if you're on the play or on the draw, it's going to dictate a little bit which cards we want to go for. Pivot lines. You got to know your pivot lines. Like, I don't have Ram. Okay, now I'm going to prioritize Develop over Royal Guard. Why? Because Develop lets me look at 2 more cards to try to get to my ramp. So knowing your pivot lines, or okay, so I'm on the play, or I'm on the draw, I have an Iago, I have Belle, I have Genie. How do I want to keep my cards? Because I already have ramp too. You don't necessarily, especially if my ramp is, say, Tipo. If my ramp is Tipo, I keep Genie, Iago, and Tipo, because I'm going to see what my opponent's playing. If they're playing an aggressive deck, okay, now I want to go for the Iago instead of the Genie. Are they playing a very slow control deck? Now I want to go for the Genie over the Iago. So if I have my ramp already, especially with Tipo, because Tipo allows you to be a little more aggressive with your mulligans, because if you hit uninkable cards, you can use them with your Tipo. Tipo allows you to do that. So if Tipo's my ramp I'm going with, I feel more comfortable being a bit more aggressive. Or, you know, with my mulligans, like I might keep a Hades on the off chance that I hit a whole bunch of inkable cards and the card just sticks with me. And I'm like, well, if I have to Tipo a Hades, I can Tipo a Hades. I do it quite often, actually, because a lot of time it's like I see my opening hand, turn 2, I'm like, this Hades is going to clog in my hand. I want inkable cards in my hand, and I'm going to Tipo the Hades, because if I don't Tipo the Hades, I'm going to get to a point where I'm inking cards I don't want to ink if I throw an inkable card away right now. So I'm not going to do that. Your start and end, though. So it's knowing your start lines, your end lines. Like I said, our end game is overwhelming our opponent. It's Hades, it's Elsa's, Monstros, just straight overwhelming our opponent with just evasives. Like, I'm going to go drop multiple Genies on you in a single turn later in the game. Like, I'm just going to overwhelm you with evasives. That's versus Ruby Amethyst. I just go full evasive versus them. Eventually, they can't answer all your evasives as good as you answer theirs. Even with the half shark, I don't care about a half shark. Personally, I'm just saying that's my advice for that matchup. Uninkables. I already said 11 to 13 is the most I want to do in this deck. Win conditions. Again, that's that end game. We already talked about that too. So let's go ahead and we're going to look at, again, this is just a really solid generic list. And apparently I actually went with 12 1-drops. I wouldn't do that. So let's say take develop down to 2, put in a 4th Hades and a 3rd Kita. I think I put it in there because I was like, I don't know if I want to keep the Rafiki or the develop at 4, and then I just happen to hit 60 and call it good. So I would take out develop down to 2, put in a 4th Hades, put in a 3rd Kita, and that's the list I would show you guys. I could edit this later, but I already started talking, and I make mistakes too, so that's perfectly fine. If my local is more aggressive focused, I would probably play this build more. I mentioned the support Basil on 1, but having the double challengers with Rafiki and your Royal Guard into these aggressive matchups is going to be really good. Turn 2, like I said, we want our ramp there. You got your sail, you have your Tipo. We added in the utility tech spot of develop your brain to help get you to that ramp. I really like develop your brain as a 2 of. Again, late game helps you search for cards and filter your deck. Early game helps you get to your ramp or your turn 3 play, whichever 4-drop you want to get to. Or it's inkable if you have a dream hand. It's always inkable if you have a dream hand. So I do really like develop your brain. It's not a win more card. It is a very, very good utility card. Rafiki on 1 versus an aggressive meta, great card. If you're not an aggressive meta, I probably wouldn't play Rafiki. Maybe I'll go for Basil instead. Then we get into the 4-drops. Do you want to ramp harder? Do you want to ramp there more? So we got Kita as that option for your ramp. Otherwise, I like Scrooge a lot. Why? He's a turn 3 2-quester that's a 5/5, so he allows you to go under control decks. He's also a 5/5 on 3 that allows you to take out your opponent's aggressive decks and challenge into them. So he kind of does dual purpose there. Iago, 4/6 body, again, kind of like Scrooge, just fantastic body size to take out aggressive style decks. Dumbo, more card draw, more threats, kind of like your Genie. It's just another evasive threat your opponent really has to deal with. So adding in that utility of the draw, the threat, the attention seeker, I do like him in there. Like I said, I'd play 4 Bell, Elsa at 4, Anna at 2, Hades we said 4 because of the develop your brain, 2 Elsa's, 3 Monstro. So 4-2-3. I think that's the perfect top end. If I have to say, I'd say Hades, Elsa, Monstro, 4-2-3. That is the perfect top end ratios right there, bar none. Sail has to be a 4 of. Finders Keepers, again, if you want to play 3 Finders Keepers, 1 weakness, perfectly fine with that. Into the Unknown, 4 of. 3 in the deck core, but I still like the card at 4. Ink it if you have to ink it. Ursula's not that common. Ways for them to discard a song out of your hand isn't that common. So I think it has a great use in the deck, and it's always inkable if you really need to. So I guess let me know. Did you like this kind of video? Did it help give any insight? And let's say you want to play blue-green. Let's say you want to play purple-steel. Again, well, we know the meta, we know the play style of those decks, so now you just got to choose a deck. You chose purple steel. Okay, learn your matchups. What are purple steel's matchups? Look up the deck ideas. Net deck. Find out what other people are playing. Play these other decks to learn, again, where purple steel interacts. When going against purple steel, play Blurple. When you go against purple steel, what do they do that works or doesn't work? What do you do against them that works or doesn't work? And take notes. Write this stuff down. Find out the deck core, and you're going to do that from net decking, from looking up results, saying, okay, all these people are playing Captain Hook at 4. All these people are playing Doc at 4. Build the deck core. And then write down all the random cards that they're playing. Okay, these are all the tech options. What's my local meta like? How can I use the tech options versus my local meta? Or in a DLC, if I'm going against the best of the best, which tech cards do I want to shore up the weaknesses of my deck versus the bad matchups? And then just go ahead and build the deck. And at the end of the day, practice, practice, practice. Make changes. Practice, practice, practice. It's the best way you're going to know if your deck works. It's the best way to learn everything inside and out. If the better you know your deck, the more advantage you have. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I kept it under an hour. That was the plan. I guess it wasn't really any plan whatsoever. I didn't know how long this would go. Let me know though what you guys thought. Did you like this video? Do you want more in-depth style videos like this? Was it helpful? And if you're playing Blurple, again, try this list out. Net deck it. And then change it for your local. Lean it more control. Lean it more aggro. Leave it as is. If it works for you, great. But at the end of the day, net decking isn't just about copying. Net decking is about learning, and it's a stigma that absolutely needs to go away. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the support, and until next time, take care.